you very much, Michael, for those words of introduction. During this presentation, I'm really going to be making the case if we're serious about brain development in children, we have to get much more serious about the preparation of parents for the task of parenthood that they undertake. We know that parenting is a lifelong commitment to the well-being of a child, and it has a pervasive impact on virtually all aspects of a youngster's development. The impacts are not only short-term, but they're intergenerational. There's been recent longitudinal work that has demonstrated that how positively a child is parented as a 3-year-old is significantly related to how positively that 3-year-old will parent their own offspring when they are 3. This is suggesting that parenting and the quality of parenting that children receive lays the foundations for their social, emotional and cognitive development, whether or not they're healthy and fit, and their general well-being. It was never meant to be easy, however. Here we go. Well, I'll just leave that little video clip I was going to show you about how difficult parenting is. So the issue that I'm going to raise is, well, so what can positive parenting contribute to the development of children? Now, if we articulate 5 key ideas, that is, children function better and their brains develop better when they're living in a safe, loving and engaging environment that's predictable. Where they're in a world of positivity, where parents have the knowledge and skills to be able to provide responsive attention to children when they initiate requests for help, when they want to show a parent something. And this is not just about praise and encouragement. This is about parents being attuned to the needs of children at the moment and responding in ways that promote learning. Children do better in worlds of predictability and certainty relating to what is expected, what is appropriate, what is reasonable. So limit setting is important for children's development, particularly in relation to emotional regulation. Children do better in a world where their expectations of parents are reasonable and age appropriate. So when a parent goes ballistic at a 5-year-old, when the 2-year-old falls in the swimming pool and says you weren't looking after your brother, we know that this is clearly age inappropriate expectations. Our capacity to be attentive, responsive and contingent, however, is markedly influenced by whether or not we look after ourselves, whether we exercise, whether we're fit and healthy, whether we're in a supported and low conflict relationship. When we start asking the question about how does parenting influence children's well-being, we need to remind ourselves of the multiple roles that parents play in children's development. We do not have a child unless we have a parent who looks after them, looks out for them, makes sure they're not run over in the driveway, drown in a swimming pool. But the fundamental functions of good parenthood really are parents as the first teachers of children. And parents' influence on children's learning, development, their language, their cognitive ability is now becoming clearer and clearer. But parents, of course, also look after their children when they're sick, when they're unwell. We advocate for our kids on their behalf sometimes, particularly if a child has special needs, has a disability. Parents are also consumers of many services, including the education system, and have an opinion. They have a brain about what they wish for their children. They're sometimes gatekeepers, however, that might prevent a child who needs assistance from gaining it. They're powerfully agents of change when parents are empowered and inskilled to parent well. When we look at the impact of parenting on different developmental outcomes for children, we need to remind ourselves that it goes across many different domains, from language development and communication, through to school attainment, through to the avoidance of serious injury because a youngster is not growing up in a world of conflict or maltreatment. I will illustrate this with a couple of examples. This is not a new example, but it's a goodie, because this was an illustration of the power of parent-child interaction around language and its capacity to predict subsequent attainments in children. Hart and Risley wrote this fantastic book called Meaningful Differences in the Everyday Experiences of Young Children. What they sought to determine is how interactions in the family, language-based interactions in the family, might relate to the subsequent unfolding of children's ability, and whether or not the interactions in between 12 and 36 months of age would relate to accomplishment at age 3 and then at age 9 and 10. The kids were mic'd up. Every language interaction that they uttered and was uttered to them was meticulously coded. Very careful observational work to attempt to quantify the language environment of these children. What was interesting, and is what is plotted here, is the three groups of parents. Professional parents, or parents who were considered professionals in this study, working class parents, and parents who were recipients of welfare payments. This is a cumulative plot of the number of words that were addressed to the child between the ages of 12 and 36 months of age. Now, what you should notice here is the huge and increasing gap between the most advantaged and the least advantaged in total amount of talk that children were participating in. When you look at the motivational context for this learning and you plot again the number of episodes of words of encouragement, such as good, that's nice, you've done a great job there, versus no, don't, stop, get down from there, leave him alone, I said. What you see is the most advantaged kids get the most encouragement, the least advantaged kids get the least. The least advantaged kids get the most negativity and discouragement, and the most advantaged get the least. What was done was to ask the question, what predicts accomplishments at age 3? And they found the best predictors were the number of words said to a child per hour was related both to vocabulary growth and vocabulary use and measured IQ. The number of different words that a parent expressed towards a child was also predictive, and the number of WH words, what, why kind of words. They then looked at the predictors of accomplishments at age 9 and 10, and they found, sure enough, how well a child was doing as a 3-year-old was importantly predictive. But the family experience of the interaction that was coded was the best predictor of the child's attainments at school at age 9 and 10. And this included specifically the feedback tone, which is the ratio of positive to negative comments, the symbolic emphasis in the language interactions, which included an emphasis on helping children learn the names of objects, colours, functions, shapes, sizes, functions of objects, and also the kind of guidance style that they used in dealing with behaviour issues. So these parents were actually firm, they were consistent, they were predictable, and they were much less likely to be involved in patterns of interaction essentially that would be caving in or acquiescing to just demanding behaviour on the part of children. Over a 100-week period with a 14-hour waking day, they estimated that what these differences in the number of words would start to look like between the three groups. And if you think about this over a 14-hour waking day, over a 100-week period, the least advantaged had 62,000 words of language experience. The most had 2,153. This is a huge difference. The question was, could they ever catch up? What would need to happen in order for the least advantaged to catch up so that they even got close to the experience of the second least advantaged by starting school? And essentially the message here is that there has to be an awful lot of extra language interaction for it to come even close to being able to approximate the language interactions of parents and children from working class homes, let alone parents of children in more middle class professional homes. So we can ask the question, what do we need to do to promote better outcomes in our children in terms of language, their capacity to self-regulate? Because self-regulatory capacity has been shown to be related to learning. It's been shown to be related to how well children do at school, how well they sustain attention, how good of problem solvers they are. In our program, we focus on this notion of everyday interactions as being the most powerful in promoting children's sense of capability, their capacity to do things for themselves. So if you take a concept like brief quality time, now quality time is a sort of a hackneyed kind of phrase. Everyone sort of thinks, yeah, what's quality time? I'm talking about interactions that last between 30 seconds and a couple of minutes. The parents of children who are developing very competently in the early childhood years have lots of these brief and frequent interactions. From a secure exploratory base, the kids check in. They want assistance, they want to show a parent something, and they have an adult who's prepared to interrupt what they're doing, show positive attention to that child, and then the child's need is met and they continue on with independent goal-directed activity. If we want kids to be good at communicating their feelings, their ideas, their opinions, their preferences, they need opportunity. They need opportunity to practice this within the family environment. It's not surprising that there's recent work that's been published showing that the family mealtime is a critical moment for family communication with adolescents. I recently read a study that was indicating that for teenage girls who had more than 3 family meals a week were less likely to have an eating disorder. Now this, you might say, what's this about? What's this related to? Well, it's about the capacity for children and their parents to engage, to communicate, to connect, for a parent to be able to be tuned in and aware of what a youngster is doing, to provide age-appropriate encouragement and attention, to ensure that youngsters have age-appropriate engaging activities that will provide a context for conversation, for learning, for problem-solving. We have families in our communities who've forgotten that they are the most significant role models in the lives of children. How much of our culture is being lost because we forget we provide role models and examples for our kids about how to do things? How to start a lawnmower, how to use a chainsaw, how to use power tools, how to cook, how to sew, how to do many things that the current generation of children are losing touch with. Now, of course, children are capable of setting examples for us as well. The point I'm trying to make is some of the most powerful moments for learning are incidental, they occur every day, they don't require structured environments, and it involves utilising experiences that you might not necessarily think would be a great moment for promoting brain development. But let me just give you an example. We've been doing a series of studies focusing on identifying common everyday parenting situations that have potential for creating both behavioural difficulties and emotional nightmares for people, for parents and children, and learning. One of the best of these is taking children shopping. Now, if you think about the shopping environment as an environment for extreme stress, embarrassment, and a wish to never take your children shopping again, then this is the group of kids I'm talking about. These are common problems, they're stressful and embarrassing, and it's almost universally aversive for parents in any country when kids are performing badly in public. However, a lot of these behaviour problems are related to the fact that as a social context, parents don't use it in a way that will promote engagement and learning. Let's ask the question, what does it mean to be a good shopper if you're 4, if you're 3, if you're 10? Well, if we think about it in terms of learning opportunities, it's an opportunity to learn about money, it's an opportunity to learn about value for money, counting, finding things, object naming, colours, shapes, functions of things, dad's favourite shaving cream, whatever it might be, and also emotionally the capacity to learn to tolerate the upset that you get when you're told no, you can't have it. It's also a context where we can learn about healthy eating, diet, how we purchase things for our family that will promote good nutrition. So we developed a 2-hour parenting intervention focused upon hassle-free shopping. Series of activities took the parents through what are the common hassles when you go shopping, They do an exercise on identifying parent traps which might contribute to these problems, and one, of course, is the classic escalation cave-in scenario, which is extremely common with behaviour problem children on shopping trips. Then the game plan is about how to prevent shopping problems by keeping children engaged and busy. What do you do to keep children actively involved? And of course, when you've got more than one child, how do you do it with 2 or 3? Well, you knock them off one at a time, basically. And the idea is that we were teaching these parents the skills. We're using video modelling, discussion, and planning. The randomised trial of this 2-hour intervention showed that there not only were significantly fewer behaviour problems in the intervention group that maintained a 6 months follow-up, but also there were significantly fewer specific shopping problems, lower levels of dysfunctional or coercive, inconsistent parenting, and increased self-efficacy and confidence in parents, and the parents were happy. These are large effect sizes. If any of you are tuned into randomised trials with kids with behaviour problems, to get a 2-hour intervention producing a 0.75 effect size is pretty good. We would have been happy to have that for an 8 to 10 session intervention program. The point I'm making, and this is what I'll end with, is this, is that if we're thinking about promoting children's development in its broadest sense, including to have healthy brains, we need to be providing these programs in a different way. This year, we published in March in Prevention Science a first cluster randomised experiment funded by the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States. The trial in South Carolina matched up 18 counties on rates of child maltreatment, on population size, and on poverty. They were randomly assigned to become either triple P counties or services as usual counties. We trained up 1,000 staff in the intervention counties. After 3 years of intervention, there are significantly lower rates of child maltreatment, both physical abuse and neglect. There's lower rates of emergency room visits due to child maltreatment-related injuries, and some of these are head injuries, and there are lower rates of out-of-home placement where kids are being removed from their homes. We need to make an impact with interventions that work. To do this, we need leverage. It is not enough to have effective parenting programs. These programs need to reach many parents. In Australia, only about 14% of parents doing a parenting program. They need to be reached with effective, evidence-based programs. This is what parents want. This is what policy people want. This is what researchers want. It's not enough to just get those programs out there. They have to be adopted by services and agencies, and they have to be implemented and maintained over time to produce population benefit. I will end with this optimistic conclusion, that I am of the belief that one of the most important things we can do as a community to promote healthy brain development is to support parents in the task of raising their children more comprehensively and in a more sophisticated way. When we do this, we will have a generation of happy, healthy, well-adjusted kids with healthy brains. Thank you.